totally upside down, just the way I intended it. Welcome in, everybody, and welcome into my latest live feed here in a couple of weeks because, as you can see very closely down at the ground, there have been some changes afoot. First of all, let me make sure things are in sync, and we'll make sure that the audio is matching the video here before I go much further. Welcome in, everybody. Let me fix that intro. Is that intro upside down? No. Okay, intro looks good now. All right. Audio. Is the audio in sync? That's what I'm looking for right now. Audio is good. Thank you guys so much for confirming that. There is a bit of a delay from when I speak to when you hear me. So it's about 1.5 to 2 minutes that I have to sort of stall to wait for a response from the chat room. Now, there has been a lot of construction here. In fact, I may end up doing this next year. I may do the cabinets and countertops. Taking off, it's been about 3 weeks since my last live video, and I needed it desperately. On the other hand, what I traded it for was a nightmare. Let me give you a little slideshow of what happened during the last few weeks. Let me just turn off the camera and we'll go over to the slideshow. So this is what my living room looked like. You see the carpet and that ugly white tile. And I've hated that tile. This is, of course, the kitchen that you see me film from, and that white tile, and you'll see it's cracked. It has purple grout. There we're pulling the tile out. Half the tile just came right off the floor. It didn't stick. Whoever installed it didn't install it right. And you can actually see from the floor as we pull the tiles up where the mastic didn't stick to the floor. That's the hallway. I apologize, that picture's sideways. That had to be jackhammered out along with the bathroom. And of course the dogs had to be kept out of the way. And I had to be out of the way. And it's the 2/3 of the house. So living in the house while this is being done is quite trying. Very dusty environment, very noisy environment. All that had to be sanded down where that's the mastic that you see that was, or the thin set that was holding the tile in. And it should be switching here in a minute, I would hope. Or not. Come on, get moving. It's not moving. For some reason. We start it over. Okay, there's the before. We're going to go through this one more time. Okay, there's the kitchen. When I bought the house, it had this tile in it, and there's so much of it that I just knew it was going to cost a whole ton of money. And I had just spent a ton of money buying the house. And we were able to remove the tile that was in the master bathroom and around the fireplace. It wasn't much, but it was all I could afford to do at the time. But it still left, as you can see, a lot of it. And the foundation, in Arizona, the homes are built on a cement slab, and now it's just a matter of time before they crack. And when they crack, well, the tiles start to crack above them. So where my foundation is cracked, I didn't want to replace tiles because the foundation will continue to move and the tile will then crack again. And for some reason, my slideshow is just stopping here and I don't know why. It's really annoying because I checked this before I started and now it doesn't want to work. So I'm going to just add the images manually as you watch a blank screen here for a minute. Let's take a look. Let's browse to the folder. Bear with me as I sort this out. All right, so then they had to sand down the floor. Let's see if we can fit that to the screen. All right, so that's where after they jackhammered everything out and then they have to sand it down, and then there's all these little holes and pits they have to fill, and then they sand that down again. So it's a big, big job. And then Lyle walks in. Let's see if we can move that. Nope, wrong way, Carey. Keeps doing the same thing. Rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise. Lyle walks in and he says, "Where's my floor?" There he is. I don't know why OBS does that with the images. And then, let's see, where is it? Just getting to this point is about a week of work right there. And I did not do this myself. There's no way. I'm not young enough. I don't have that kind of energy in me to do that. Not anymore. It's just a lot of elbow grease. So the picture, this is the one you've been waiting for here. Let's transform that back to 180 degrees. There we go. So that's the new floor now. And let's see if we can get you a better angle there. Let's see. This was the living room, which again, I'm not sure why it's doing this to me. There we go. And those, where it looks wet, those are the cracks in the foundation. They had to be grinded down and then filled with a material that allows the movement without hopefully disrupting the floor. And as you can imagine, all the furniture, all the appliances, everything has to go somewhere in order to make that floor available. It's a nightmare to live in the house while that's happening. But it's done, and it looks like this now. Now the floor looks brown. It's actually gray and white. It's the light that's coming in from the windows is throwing off the color on the camera. So it's not brown. It's a white oak looking type floor. It is a laminate vinyl, and basically one guy did this entire floor installation. He didn't take the old floor out. He didn't prep. He did half the prep, like he filled in the holes and sanded it down. But the first crew came in and they were just the demo crew. That I could do. I could demo. Give me a jackhammer and get out of my way. I think I've got one more picture in here. All right, so basically when I started this slideshow, I showed you this was my view here, and this is my view from the same perspective here. So I need to get a big throw rug or something to put on there, but it's 1,000 times better. Something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I know I'm old when a floor makes me so happy. I will wake up in the morning, step out of the bedroom, and see this floor, completely forgetting, you know, and it just brings a smile to my face. So it was a pain in the butt, but totally worth doing, and wish I could have done it sooner. I'll be paying for it for a while. And then if you look real closely on the picture, you see I've got little coasters. They're like coasters that go underneath the legs of the furniture, and that's so I don't dent or tear the floor. It is a laminate flooring. It can tear. It's completely glued down. They said it is such a hassle to try and remove this floor that in all likelihood, if anybody were to replace the floor, they would probably just go right on top of it rather than try and remove this floor. And I'm like, that's great, because I have no intention of ever taking this floor out. So here we are, all right? There's the floor. Hallelujah. Yep. So much better. So much better. And the guy who did the job did an excellent job. I feel kind of bad. He was supposed to have somebody helping him, and the person flaked out. And he ended up doing the job all by himself, but at least I know it was done consistently, with consistency. So in other words, if he did it wrong throughout. There won't be little spots. And if he did it right, he did it right throughout. It's a waterproof floor, and it's supposed to be extraordinarily durable. And all the baseboards were replaced. They didn't have the corners. I've got rounded walls, and they didn't have those, so I had to go to Home Depot and buy 20 of them, 20 corner pieces. They're like $5 a piece. Then I had to paint them, And I had to do this all between the time he left and the time he came back. Like he left for the day, was coming back at 8 in the morning. I had to have it ready. So my whole life has been consumed with this project, even as much as just staying out of the way, you know. So that's why I haven't been around the last couple weeks, but I appreciate you guys' patience. We did try to get some new videos put out in the meantime. My sister did some edits of some older stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And I thank all of you for your patience. And for those of you contributing to the channel, let me just say a thank you to those who have contributed thus far today. And that is, let's see, Madi Yoels contributed $1.99 and $5. Thank you, Madi. Jim Desposito's contributed $5, and David Kane says, here's $5. Have a Coke on me, and thanks for the birthday wishes. Yeah, happy birthday to David and David Kane there. And hello to my friends here in the chat: Steve Larkin, John Feiner, Darren Kluth, Peter Rayner, Zarian Art, John Craig, AB3NX, Steve Larkin, Franklin Adams. Hopefully his computer's running well for him. I know we were off to a little rough start there. Ray Sudbury, Adam Jett, Donnie Seeger, Mark Baggett, and piano instrumentalist Edgar Sands, Stealth Mode, Michael Collis, OG Gaming, Stephen Barber, Bloodbath, Thomas Beckenstow, William VDK, Alesh DePej, Tony Wallow. Welcome back, Tony. Still got to get Tony's. I'm giving him that machine, that X299. It's in the garage with a bunch of other stuff I had to get out of the way. I've spent almost the entire day today setting all the equipment back up in the kitchen. Couldn't find some of the cables. It was covered in dust. I had to get everything cleaned up. So it's good to get everything set up again so I can go back to getting work done. I have got a huge backlog of work. A lot of nice comments in the chat about the floor. Thank you guys so much. I love this floor. I didn't know that it was going to make me this happy. I'm extraordinarily happy. It's also nice that it's completely smooth. I was walking barefoot on broken tiles and grout that was coming out, and it's uncomfortable. This floor is completely smooth. So this guy, I can't say enough good things about him. And the price I paid after I got a quote from this other competitor, they were nearly half the price. So I'm just glad that the other place, which I had committed to at almost twice the price, didn't have the inventory that was required to do this much flooring. So they had to back out of the deal. And ultimately, I'm glad that happened. It saved me a lot of money. It delayed it a little bit, but for the money savings, worth it. A couple other contributions have just come in. Madi's contributed $5. Thank you, Madi. Wim VDK's contributed €5. It says, greetings from the chocolate sender. Are they all gone by now? Yeah, the chocolates are gone. Couldn't eat them all, quite honestly. I ended up giving them to my wife before they would go bad, because I don't have a large sweet tooth, but I do have a large curiosity. So I'm so grateful that you sent them when we were able to try them, and they were great. Don't get me wrong. It's not because I didn't like them, but I had my wife take them to work and share them with her coworkers, and they were gone instantly, which I knew that would happen. Chester Hughes has contributed $2, and Donnie Seeger's contributed $5. Good to see you. Glad you got your Florida. Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's a number of projects I want to get done in the house. Like I said, I want to do cabinets and countertops. That's going to be even more money than the floor, probably 2 to 3 times the price of the floor. And then I've got a back patio that's falling down, but I never go in the backyard because, you know, I'm a nerd. I don't go outside. But it has to be completely, it's not pitched right. So every time it rains, there's drywall out there. Now, I don't know what idiot thought it would be a good idea to put drywall outside, but the old house I lived in had it above the carport, and it came down too. So my goal for that, I keep looking at it, if you see me looking off in the distance, will be to tear that down, either repitch it so that the water doesn't collect on it, because when it rains here in Arizona, it rains and floods everything. So it's important that you have a good drainage system, or this kind of problem happens. In fact, I even see the wood out there rotting and moldy, but it's outside, so I don't care. But I want to get that all redone and put some wood up there instead of drywall, and I think it'll withstand the weather a lot better. But that'll be, you know, $8,000, $10,000. So that'll be maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, maybe, if I'm still here in the house. So thank you for bearing with me through this construction project. I'm glad I only have to do it once. I hope this floor stays down. I hope I don't have any problems with it coming up. I hope I don't damage the floor with any heavy furniture or by dragging heavy things across it or dropping something sharp that could cut into the vinyl. It's supposed to be extraordinarily durable, and I've talked to a lot of people that have had this put in. It's apparently a fairly new product. Even the installer had just taken a class. Even though he's installed it, he's installed wood floors for like, I think he said 15, 20 years. They took a class talking about, you know, how important it is the floor is completely flat, that, you know, if there's a dip in the floor, the vinyl's gonna just dip right wherever that is on the floor. So hopefully it stays down and it continues to look like it does today. You don't use any cleaners on it. I think you're just supposed to use, you know, there's like a spray bottle you can use with a push broom, and that's all you do to clean it, I think. I'll figure it out. It's not my job. That's my wife's job. Steve Burnett just contributed $10. It says, thanks for your channel. I just finished my new build. It's a combination of several of your builds, and it works great. Awesome. Yeah, I'll be doing a new build next week. Madi, who's there in the chat room, is ordering a heck of a gaming machine. It's like a Core i9 9900K with a Z390 board. We'll use I'll do a review of the Dark Base 900, I think it's called, from Be Quiet. And it'll have a it'll have an RTX 2080 Ti with a 2 terabyte Samsung 970 Evo Plus, which I think is faster than the Pro. Anyway, that 2 terabyte NVMe drive is about $480. Madi wanted the best. So that's what he's going to get, and we'll start that build next week. What I've got behind me is the machine that I started on before the floor construction had started. This is the Alienware Aurura R6 and was sent to me for an upgrade. The gentleman that had it has a mechanical drive. He wanted to upgrade to solid state. And in the last video, I had checked the M2 connector on the board to see if it supported NVMe, and it does. And I did a clean install of Windows 10 to make sure there wouldn't be any problems. So today I've got to clone the mechanical drive to the SSD the customer wants. Now that we know it'll accept a good NVMe SSD, we're going with a 2 terabyte Intel 660p. These sell for under $200. So this is actually the same price or less than the equivalent M2 SATA, but it runs 4 times faster on average. Customer also wanted a Elgato capture card, so we'll put that in for him. And he also wants to be able to upgrade his graphics card. He doesn't believe this power supply is going to cut it. Now this power supply is a little bit weird, so I told him to just go ahead and order a basic EVGA power supply, which we have here, and I'll figure out the weirdness. Usually, when companies do their own proprietary power supply, they're still running off the same connectors. So I have a hunch that the 4-pin connectors on this power supply are the same pinouts and everything as the 4-pin connectors on this one, but they separate them. And usually you only use, so you have an 8-pin or a 4-pin, and you use one or the other. This one, I believe, is using the 2 4s separately, but I think the voltages and everything are all the same. If I'm wrong, I blow up the motherboard, and I owe the customer a new machine. I could throw the voltmeter on it, but I'm pretty confident they don't really go that far in there. Again, I could check it. Maybe I will. I'm pretty confident they don't go through that much trouble, but we'll check. Okay, let's see. Zarian Art says, I'm turning 32 in 3 weeks and missed you, hoping for more. Well, 32? I'd be 32 again. I got no problem with that. It's a good age. I'll give you a happy birthday early right now, but hopefully we'll say it again when it's on your birthday. Just looking through the chat. It's slippery for the dogs. No, the floor is actually, it's got a texture like wood, and the old tile was smooth and slippery. This has much more of a grip to it. The dogs still have to get used to it though. Dogs are a little confused what happened to their floor. Sharon Idles contributed £2. It says time to send you more dosh. Thank you, Sharon. I'm down to one bag. I got my one bag of heaven. One bag of heaven is left. The best. They need to sell these in America. They need to figure out that Americans will buy the heck out of this. Smoky bacon. New floor, smoky bacon, crisps. What more could make me happier? Oh, there is one thing. I know it's rude. It's rude of me to crunch on camera, but they're so good. It's my last bag. Okay, let me get this started because this is going to take a little bit. Just make sure I have my elixir of life ready. All right. Customer also asked me, how often should you change the thermal compound on your CPU? This is a very difficult question to answer because there's different environments and different thermal compounds. And in general, I would say you could change the thermal compound after about 3 years. That would probably be about the earliest you should need to. The harm in changing it is that if you're not experienced, you could damage a perfectly good working machine trying to fix something that's not broken. But if it's something that you want to undertake and it's important to you, there's no other way you're going to learn, right? You have to do it to learn. But understand that every time you get in there and do something like that, you risk damaging it. And of course, after you've done it, a couple hundred times, a couple thousand times, whatever it takes, it's not a big deal. So maybe start out with another machine you don't care much about and experiment with that rather than experimenting with the one that you rely on. And furthermore, my advice would be if you really do rely on this machine and your life's going to be miserable without it, leave it alone or pay somebody to do it. And when I say pay somebody, I don't mean a friend. I mean somebody who will take accountability and liability to the point of replacing it if they break it at no cost to you. That's what a real tech does. Not these guys that you see on YouTube that do all this liquid cooling and RGB and all this other overclocking nonsense. They accept no liability or responsibility to anybody but themselves and their sponsors. There's no sponsors here. And all the work I do are for real customers. And if I, for example, change this power supply out, let's just say I do something wrong and smoke and fire come out of this machine. It is my responsibility to replace the machine for the customer at my cost. That's what a real tech does. Same as if a mechanic test drives your car and drives it into a wall or gets into an accident. That mechanic is responsible for repairing that car or possibly replacing it. That's what insurance is for. These guys that run their enthusiast channels, they're good. Don't get me wrong. Anybody who likes tech is good in my book. But understand that without any accountability, they can pretty much do anything they want. The only person it affects is them. So bear that in mind as you watch free content, even on the TV. Just understand that when you pay somebody to do a job, that person should be licensed, bonded, and insured for anything worth any amount of money, be it a mechanic, a plumber, a floor installer. You know, the floor installers, just to give you an example of liability, they will not hook up the water to the refrigerator. They will not hook up the the gas to the oven, and they will not hook up the toilet back to the floor. They'll take it all out. They'll remove it, but they will not accept the liability of a leak, whether it's a water leak or a gas leak, and therefore they are not allowed by company policy to hook up, just to turn a knob, you know, just to turn a screw. They're not allowed to do it. So, for example, when they had to pull the toilet, installing a toilet's pretty easy. You know, it's a new wax ring and 2 bolts. They could pull it, but they can't put it back. So there's plenty of YouTube channels where people will show you how to install a floor and how to pull your toilet. But understand that when you do that upon yourself, or you hire a friend who's just doing it as a favor, and there becomes damage to the house, or an explosion in the case of not hooking a gas line up correctly, not much recourse you're going to have. So it's really important when you run a business, because you won't have a business very long if you don't. All right, Jesse Kirk's just contributed $5. He says, love the new floor. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you so much. And Jan Giddings has contributed £4.99. Thank you to Jan. Patrick Russo has contributed $5. Carey, are Quadro cards still relevant for video editing? I've never edited with a Quadro card because the PowerLink, the CyberLink Power Director software doesn't take advantage of it, as far as I know. It depends on the video editing software and the version of that video editing software to determine if it will take advantage of the, I don't know if it's the CUDA cores or what it's got more. I can't remember because it's been years since I've seen one. Jesse contributed again, $5. Glad to see you today. Happy Friday. Enjoy a Coke on me. I will do, Jesse. Happy Friday to you too, my friend. Yeah, there are some drop frames happening. It appears to be on my end. It looks like the upload's been interrupted a little bit, but looks like it's okay again. I'm peaked out right now at about 5,000 kilobits a second. Because all the equipment was down, it would have been great if I could have had that same amount of downtime to tweak the streaming PC and tweak OBS and try and get all of this isolated. Unfortunately, all the equipment was all jammed into a room. All the furniture was jammed into another room, and walking around here was just, yeah. So anyway, we'll get to there. We'll get there. So what I want to do right now is I just want to take out the solid state drive that's in here now. I got a Western Digital drive that I used for testing, and I'm just going to keep it as a testing drive until I sell it. It's a good, fast solid state drive. Prices on solid state drives and RAM are really, really low right now. If you're in the United States and you're worried about these tariffs, yeah, it's probably going to bring prices up a couple of bucks. This may be a good time to buy that stuff. Sterling's contributed $2. He says, welcome back. Thank you, Sterling. Good to be back. All right, let's get this out of here. And let's get the graphics card out. This is an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1070 that's been running just fine on this 400 and some odd watt stock power supply that came with the Alienware. You'd think at the price Alienware charges, they'd give you a high-end power supply, but not so much. I still have not charged this screwdriver. I'm gonna have to go back in my video history and look when I got this driver. I don't use it that often. Most of the time when I use it, it's on camera, although I do use it sometimes off camera. I still got one LED on the battery. I mean, as long as it's got a charge and it's ready to rock and roll when I need it, that's important to me, not how much of a charge it's got. unless I'm undertaking a really big project. And I'm getting a little nervous over how long it's going to last. I'm going to need to put that battery on the charger for the first time. We'll see how long it takes to charge. So first, let's get the Western Digital solid-state drive out of here. There's that. There's the solid-state drive. I'm just going to put this back in its package, and I will use it again, either for a diagnostic or it'll be sold to somebody. I think that's a 512 gig high-performance Western Digital black. Yeah, it's funny, that's what the box says. And this stuff has no expiration date, so it'll always work. Put it on a shelf when you need it. The problem with doing that, of course, is that the value drops, but it's not like I don't really sell parts, you know, so that's not important to me. I make money on service. I don't make money on parts. Don't want to get in the parts business for that very reason. You could buy the parts, and by the time you sell them, the parts cost less than what you paid for them months earlier, or however long you had it before you sold it. Then the customer thinks you're ripping them off. Customer's like, why do you charge so much more than, you know, Amazon or whatever? And you're like, well, because I bought it 2 months ago. And then they expect you to take a loss on it. They expect you to give them the best price. It's quite often the case. So if you don't get involved in parts, you don't have to worry about collecting the sales tax and filing that quarterly report 4 times a year to the city. So this is how the Intel drive is packaged. It's very similar. And let's just go ahead and install that because it's very simple. Whoa, dropped it somewhere. I gotta find it. Time for my flashlight. These M.2 screws are very, very tiny, and it's important that you use a magnetic screwdriver to avoid dropping the screw, especially if you were to drop it, you know, where the floor is carpet, or you shouldn't be working on carpet anyway for anti-static reasons. Trying to figure out if that's going in there straight or not. It's hard to see. There we go. Now that's in there. So you can see installing one of the fastest types of storage you can buy today is quite simple if your motherboard supports it. Steve Welch has contributed $2. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for supporting the channel. Now what I have to do is move all the data off this mechanical drive. Let me just move this over here for a minute. You want to move all the data off the mechanical drive onto the solid state. I guess I'm going to need video for that. So I'll plug the video card back in, which I'm probably going to have to take back out again here in a minute, but that's all right. One thing at a time. This is the other 4-pin connector I was telling you about. There's one here and there's one up here. I think they're the same power output. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay. Give the video card some power. And I had disconnected the mechanical drive when I was testing the solid state drive just to avoid making any mistakes with regards to any customer data. I've yet to boot this off the customer's hard drive. So what I'm going to do now is give it some power. Let's move this over here. And we'll go to power right here. I need to get some video onto this. So we'll go, yeah, this will work. We'll go with one of these cables. We'll go from here. And we'll come around the back over here. What else do I need? A keyboard and mouse, which I have a spare set right here. I'll just plug that in up here. And then I need an Acronis rescue disc. So I have a Acronis 2019. I've got plenty of videos on how I make this, how I use it. And Acronis 2020 will be out next week. Is it next week already? A little bit more than a week. I think the 20th of August. I'll see if I could bring Acronis on. We could talk about the new Acronis 2020. And offer you guys a discount, I hope. That's on my to-do list of things I've got to get done. That's talk to Acronis and get them scheduled. All right, let's get this turned on and let's bring in input. Let's see, I guess this is camera 2. Yeah, what is it, F12, F10? I missed it because I wanted to boot off USB. Instead, it's booting the customer's Windows 10 right now. I know that's the customer's Windows 10 because let me move this out of the way. Because the drive I just installed is completely empty. There's no partition, there's no format, there's no operating system on it. Ben DeCour has contributed $4.99. Thank you, Ben. Always good to see you. I still have to get used to using the right mouse. And Marty's contributed $10. Thank you, Marty. All right, let's try and let me see, let me go full screen on this so I can see it. And I just want to shut it down so I can reboot. Oh, this thing's slow. So slow. Shut down. Shut down anyway. So slow. So take a note at how long this is taking to boot and shut down, because when we get this simply cloned over with Acronis, not changing anything, but just removing the data, we're not removing it, but we're copying all the data from the mechanical drive to the new solid state drive, and then we'll reboot it again and we'll see what the boot up time is. It should be a night and day difference. There we go. Finally. Wasn't sure that was ever going to happen. All right, now let me go full screen on this again, at least for me, so I can see what's going on. So I can hit the right button in time to tell it to boot off the USB stick. Let's try again. Is it F12, F10? I can't remember. F12 is boot options, so that's what I want. F12. Thank you. USB storage device. Yes. Actually, USB 1, USB 2. I don't know what that means. Let's try USB 1 first. See if that loads Acronis. It does. Perfect. So we'll let Acronis load here. It'll just take a moment. And that might be too small for you, so let's get this transferred to a bigger screen. Here we go. So the screen is black right now. That's Acronis loading. Just give it a minute. Sometimes Acronis will do this, depends which rescue disk you use. This is a Linux-based rescue disk, and I've seen it do this where it'll leave me this black screen and I just have to be patient and wait. So as not to confuse you that you've lost video, I'm just going to minimize the screen a little, or we'll bring it up there in the corner. We'll just keep an eye on it while I continue to talk to you. And Michael Dane's contributed $5. He says, have a Coke from a Dane. Nice floor. Thank you, Michael. I'm going to just give us just a little bit more time before I give up on it. I have seen Acronis do this before in some systems. It'll be interesting to see if this gets addressed at all in 2020. There are two different ways to make an Acronis rescue disk. You can make it with Linux, or you can make it with a Windows recovery environment, which looks like a portable copy of Windows. It's very lightweight, Windows 10. And if this doesn't work, I'll switch over to the other boot disk I've got. The reason I use the Linux boot disk is I've just used it most often. The Windows recovery environment was always slower to boot, but now it's the other way around. It's flipped. Times change, but old habits take a while to retrain. I will get there. Jim Maloney's contributed $25. He says, I'm sorry I can't afford more. Your videos are so informative and I learned so much from them. Thank you, Jim. That's a nice contribution and I appreciate that. I appreciate all the contributions and all the support. Now, I'm starting to lose my patience on this. The reason that Linux is no longer functioning well is because of all the different drivers required for NVMe, and there was something else that we're talking about. I think it was chipset support that Acronis was, where they said Linux was lagging behind. And that's why the Windows recovery environment works so much better now. Lorda Sevens just contributed $2. Thank you. And I see Dave Murray in the chat. Good. love seeing familiar names in there. I'm sorry if you're familiar and I haven't yet called you out, but you know, stick around. It's bound to happen. Now, there will be, I want to remind you, there's an upcoming meet and greet that's going to take place in Grand Rapids, Michigan, September 20th through the 22nd. The link is in the video notes below the video, and that is the TechCon Unplugged. And it's really designed for people that are self-employed techs or want to become self-employed techs, to meet other self-employed techs, people who have made it, where you can get some advice from anything you need to know about marketing and billing, what you should charge, what services you can offer or should offer or didn't think about offering, and how to offer them. And make new friends, people that you'll be able to talk to long after the event. I meet some of the best people at these events, like meeting Jamie and Roberto in Chicago during ChannelCon a couple of years ago. Great guys. I don't talk to them often, but we have each other's number, and I have contacted Jamie a few times for some advice, and it's been very helpful, and there's nobody else I know to call for that kind of advice. So those are the kind of contacts you can make at an event like this. I think it's $200 a ticket for 3 days. I think it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 20th, 21st, and 22nd of September. I will not be speaking there, but I will be there. And if you want to come by and meet me, great. Food is included in that price, so you'll be eating your $200 worth of your ticket price, they assure me. September, late September in Western Michigan should be beautiful. And there's going to be a lot of other internet famous people. Mike Smith from the Mike Tech Show has his plane ticket. Jeff Hallish, who just lives not too far from there, of course, will be there. He's creator of Podnuts. He's also one of the people putting this all together, along with another gentleman, Paco, who is Paco LeBron. He is a self-employed technician. He's been making a lot of podcasts and YouTube videos, and so they're all great people, wonderful people. I believe Matthew Rodella will be there. If you don't know these names, they're really they're self-employed techs who are sharing their stories and advice for other people who are or want to be self-employed techs. And I commend them for not treating everybody like a competitor. So I think I've run out of patience with waiting for this to boot. I still kind of feel like it will, if I give it more time, eventually it'll come up. But we're gonna, instead, we'll swap this out and go with my Acronis recovery, Windows recovery environment boot, because it seems like that's what I'm gonna have to do to get this done today. So I'll just hold the power button in until the machine shuts off. Okay, it's off. We'll pull this flash drive. Done with that one for now. We'll put this one in instead. Turn this back on, and we're back to F12. And I can't read anything because it's too small. Let's see, just transform that full screen. And we want this one right here. You see, it looks like Windows 10. It is a Windows 10 recovery environment. And it does boot faster than Linux now, and it doesn't have the issues with drivers that the Linux build has. Linux is starting to fall behind, but that won't change anybody's mind about Linux. The people who love it are always going to love it, and the people who don't, don't. So, but you know, it's always been a habit that I've used the Linux version of the Acronis recovery because it was always faster. But you see, this is much, much faster now. Times have changed. All right, we're going to do, where is it? Tools and utilities, clone. And we're going to clone from the mechanical drive. You'll see disk 2 is not offered. Disk 2 must be the solid state drive. Because it's not partitioned or formatted, there's nothing to clone. So it doesn't offer it as a source. Because Acronis is smart enough to go, well, obviously you don't want to clone that because there's nothing there. Thank you, Acronis. It's amazing how something that simple, other cloning software don't have the intelligence to not make that an option. And then disk 3 is the little flash drive I plugged in, so we don't want to use that. So that's going to be our source drive. You'll see it's pretty full. We'll hit next. Now it's going to search for where it can put that. Able to lock the disk. That's new. Give me just a minute. I need to make my screen bigger. Let me go full screen here so I can. I'm looking at a screen within a screen within a screen, so you guys actually get to see a better view of the screen than I do until I go full screen. So it's telling me it wants me to boot from Linux-based media and try again, which is ironic. Now there's a couple different ways we can accomplish this if I want to be stubborn, and I am. If it's going to just give me this repeated message, let's just see, select target disk. I want disk 2. It's not offering it to me. So for whatever reason, it's not able to cancel, it's not able to lock down the drive, which means there's some file in use for some reason on the disk. So what I should be able to do instead is, let's see, maybe we can back up the drive. See if it'll let us do that. We'll back up disk 1. Which isn't, 1.6 terabytes. That's going to take a while, huh? That's not good. I mean, I could do it, but it's just going to take a while. So let's do something else. Let's go ahead and shut this back down. And I'll shut the computer off. And we'll go back to, let's bring this back over here. What I'm going to try and do, since that's not working, so I'm going to bring up the same Acronis flash drive with Linux on it. I'm going to try it one more time in a different USB port. Sometimes, for some reason, that can make a difference, and we'll just give it a shot. We've got nothing to lose. We're not risking damaging anything. We're just taking more time than I expect it should have taken. I mean, we should be well on our way. So let's just go down here and let's try this again. And you know, I can try loading the non-64-bit version of Acronis TrueImage to see if that makes a difference, if it continues to have an issue loading. I'm wondering if it doesn't like the video card for some reason. I don't know. Try one other thing. Let's go back. I can't see very well, so I have to change my view a little bit here, but I think I'm going to shut this off. Okay. Turn it back on. Press F12 when the option comes up here. Here we go. So F12 will get me into the boot options. I wonder what this USB 2 option is. What happens if I select that? Oh, it's not even offering me a Acronis trimmage in 32-bit. Interesting. I think there's an option when you make the boot disk if you want to offer the 32-bit version. I probably said no. That's probably on me. Because why would I need the 32-bit? So I'm going to let that sit there for a minute, see if that loads. Is there a recovery partition on the disk? It doesn't matter because there's no problem with the disk. We're simply just trying to clone. The disk is fine. The problem is that when I tried the Windows recovery environment version of Acronis, it says it can't lock the disk to use the Linux version. When I use the Linux version, we have no boot screen. The other thing I could do is grab an early copy of Acronis 2020, create the rescue disk, and see if that addresses this. This is an issue you will run in with newer hardware if you're using older software. Now, Acronis 2019 isn't so much older, except it is right at the end of its life with regards to the version. This version of Acronis 2019 will last forever on older hardware that came out, let's say, mid-2019 and before. In theory, it should work with all hardware in 2019. So maybe there's an update I'm missing, or I don't know. You know, this stuff takes a little bit of research and a little bit of time. So all I can do right now is just speculate what the possibilities are. But that doesn't really, that doesn't necessarily help get the exact answer. However, there has to be an investment of time. Whether that time is me giving it time to see if it's going to boot, or that time is me spent looking at a computer screen. It's not riveting video for you guys either way. But this is the reality that you would face as a technician on a regular basis, where you're working on client machines that you don't normally work on. When I have a customer on a retainer, then their machines are always being maintained and optimized at all times, so that stuff like this is much less likely to occur. It's sometimes hard to sell that to a customer because they'll say, well, what are we paying you for? Everything works. Like, well, this is called preventive maintenance. So we don't run into issues like this one right here. Customer will say, well, that's your time. What do I care about your time? Well, you'll care when your system doesn't come back to you for 3 weeks because I'm trying to figure it out. You'll say, why is it taking so long? And then when I send you the bill for it, you'll say, why does it cost so much? So these are the kind of things you deal with, you know, with some customers. Depends on the customer. When you find the customers who really see the value in what you do and appreciate what you do, you know, you do everything you can to make them happy and go out of your way to give them no reason to want to go anyplace else. For the other customers, take them or leave them. Those are a dime a dozen. It really, when they get sort of, when they don't give you any rope, don't give them any rope. You know, if they start getting demanding, you just offer to give them the computer back, no charge, in the condition it's in, and wish them well. A lot of people have this attitude of, nope, you've committed to the job and now you're going to pay me one way or the other. I'm not that way. I would rather give somebody their money back Obviously, I'm not giving them parts for free, but any labor, I'll just give it to them. They can go somewhere else. That's, to me, I can sleep at night that way. I don't want to force my labor on somebody and say, well, too bad you committed to it and it's my money now. I run into too many people in numerous industries here in America that have this level of greed that is profoundly unsustainable. And those are not businesses that will be around much longer with people running them with those kind of attitudes. You know, you need more of a chess mentality. You need to think about tomorrow and next week and next month. Ideally, the customer will come back again and again or refer you to people and friends because they had a good experience, they thought it was a good value. When you upset a customer, they'll tell 10 times as many people not to go to you. When you have a happy customer, 20% of those happy customers will refer you. When you have an upset customer, about 100% of them will tell everybody within earshot how horrible you are. So. Carey, is that a fresh haircut? Yeah, it got cut a bit short this time. Thank you for noticing. Yeah, new floors, new haircut, new video. Everything's new. Well, he wore this shirt like once or twice before, so it's still kind of new. My James Dean shirt. This is just not gonna load. It's just not my day. I'm gonna try one more time with the recovery environment to see if the drive is still locked. Let's see what happens. I do like to try everything twice just to make sure there wasn't some bizarre little fluke or screw up mistake. Sometimes this stuff is so routine to me that I fail to do something simple because I'm just not thinking. I'm, sort of brainless, just going through the same processes over and over and over again. That's often where mistakes get made. I've often said the skydiver jumping for the first time is generally not the one who dies. It's the one that's been doing it a while. Let's see. Yeah, that overconfidence will get you every time. So let's see if I made a mistake. We go full screen so I can see. There we go. Let's try one more time. Of course, there are other cloning utilities. I don't have to stick with Acronis. I could go to Macrium Reflect. I could go to Clonezilla. I could go to Mini Partition Tool Wizard. Lots of competitors out there. I use Acronis because I can count on it. What you're seeing is very, very unusual. I do want to reiterate, a new version of Acronis is coming out right around the corner, which may not have this issue. Let's try Tools and Utilities, Clone Disk, Automatic, Disk 1. So apparently Disk 1 is a 2 terabyte mechanical drive, and we're going to a 2 terabyte solid state drive. And we have the same error, but it's unable to lock the disk. That is very, very unusual. And you'll see Acronis tries a couple of times here. I don't know why it doesn't give me the option, like I can't cancel it or anything until it tries like 3 times. I can hear the mechanical drive chattering away. It's possible something on the mechanical drive is failing. The first time I've ever booted that was just earlier in this video when it started booting to the customer's desktop because I didn't hit F12 fast enough. and it seemed very, very slow, like it's struggling. But until I run Crystal Disk Info on it, I just don't know what the status of that drive is. When the customer shipped it, supposedly it was working great. It could have been knocked around in shipping pretty good. I don't know. It wasn't shipped that far, just a few hundred miles. It doesn't seem likely to me. But Acronis is definitely struggling. That much is certain. Paul Hynak has contributed $4.99, and Mark Stevens contributed $5. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate your support of the channel. And Billy Zoo has contributed $5 Australian. He says, awesome video, Carey. Thank you, Billy. Scanning through the comments to see if I missed any questions. There's Dawn asking me 3 times if I got her question. You should not be asking me if I got your question, because I have no idea what your question was. Instead, sometimes you have to repeat your question, because if the only thing I read from you with 748 people watching live is, did you get my question? You missed your opportunity for me to read your question. Unless that was the question you were asking. Oh boy. So if you have a question for me, anybody, this will be the time to ask it, as I'm just sort of waiting for Acronis to time itself out. I could just shut the machine off, but I'm gonna just let it run for a minute. John Edwards says, I love the streams and videos when things don't go according to plan. After all, this is real life. You have to understand that as a working technician, it's pretty rare that I sit down at a problem, whatever the customer's complaint is, click a few buttons and walk away after 5 minutes. Usually it requires a bit of research and a bit of experimentation in order to get that problem resolved, which oftentimes leads the customer to say, oh, well, you're here, I also can't do this, or I also want to do that, or, you know, there's some side effect. And so it's very important that when you believe that you fixed a customer's problem, you don't state that you have. You don't tell your customer, you don't say it's done. You say, I want you to sit here and try it now. The customer will say, well, why don't you try it? No, it doesn't matter if it works for me. It matters if it works for you. And before I leave, I want you to just check everything, the things that are important to you. Does your speakers work? Can you print? Can you open up your email? What are the things that are most critical to you that you do every day? I don't want you to check everything I don't have all day, but just check those critical things. And the first thing I want you to check is what I came here to fix. So for example, customer says, can't get my email to open in Google Chrome. It was working fine. It's Gmail. But now I've got to use Edge. How come? Like, clear your browser history. Oh yeah, we did that already. So I look at it. I verify the problem. I open up Edge. I open up Chrome. I go to Gmail. Sure enough, Gmail is not working in Chrome. It's the strangest thing. It's working on everybody else's, but not on this one machine. I check Chrome for updates. There's no updates. I clear the cache myself. Nothing. I look for browser extensions and add-ons. Disable everything. No difference. So, what else are you going to do? I go to reinstall Chrome again, right on top of itself. Gmail works. What was it? Don't know. Don't care. Never saw that problem before. Probably won't see it again. Doesn't do me any good to know why. So let the customer check it, test it. Let me know if you have any problems. That's real life tech. That's how it works. You go to a customer's location. Again, if it's not a machine you normally see, you have no idea what hardware you're encountering. You have no idea how the software has been configured, or what viruses, or amount of temp files, or state of the hard drive. You don't have any of that information. There's an assumption. Oh, look, we got to another screen here. What's it say? Select the target drive. I don't think it's going to let me select. Oh, it is letting me select. Well, this should be interesting. So I've selected the Intel solid state drive. And let's see what it does. So you can imagine if you're a working tech and you see these YouTube videos and these guys that are enthusiasts that have editors and cameramen, and everything goes according to plan, and it's all very slick, and there's background music, and there's cuts and edits. That's not real life. That's not how it works. It would be great if everything I did was perfect all the time, but then I think life would also get very boring, though I'd probably be rich. And it's not to say that there's no educational or entertainment value from those other channels, but all I'm trying to say is you need to realize when you're watching something edited, there may be a lot cut out. If you're watching a 20-minute video, that could have been 2 or 3 hours of footage or more whittled down into 20 minutes. So just bear that in mind. If you want to be a tech and you want to know what it's like to be a tech. They used some of my footage. KCET in California, which is a public broadcast station, just did a 4-part documentary called Blue Sky Metropolis, which studies the history of space exploration based in Southern California. And they asked me for permission to use my footage of the Falcon 9 rocket that took off. It was the Falcon Heavy, I think, that took off the day before Christmas a couple years ago. And I filmed it. It's on my YouTube channel, right from my front door. It took off from Vandenberg Air Force Base, which is like 500 miles away, and you could see it in the sky. And of course, I gave them the source video. I said they had my permission to use it. And they use about 3 seconds of my video. And for those, and my name is in the credits for that 3 seconds of a 52-minute documentary. But that 52-minute documentary is made up of a bunch of short clips like that, you know, interviews with different people, stock footage, et cetera, et cetera. So bear in mind when you're watching these edited videos, the vast majority of what you're watching was probably left on the cutting room floor. So, all right, let me get back to this. What does it say now? Full screen. Oops, wrong one, Carey. Wrong one. Let's see this in full screen. Okay, so we want to go. Okay, the disk is blank. That's what it's going to look like when it's done. Proceed. So slow. There it goes. So now it's going to make an exact duplicate of that mechanical hard drive onto our solid state drive. Now both drives happen to be the same size, which is good in this particular instance because the drive is darn near full. With Acronis, one of the things I really like about Acronis is without any configuration options that the user has to do, it'll automatically go to a smaller drive as long as the smaller drive has enough room to hold all the data from the source drive. So if this 2 terabyte source drive was only 1/10 full, if it was only 10% full, I'd only need a drive that was big enough to hold that 10%. Some cloning software make you jump through hoops in order to make that configuration go from big to small. They're not intelligent enough to do that automatically, and there's no reason for that in this day and age. The software can see how much data is on the source drive. The size of the source drive should be irrelevant, unless you're doing a sector by sector clone, which is typically done in data recovery or forensic recovery. So while that's copying, I'm happy to address any questions you have. While we're waiting for this to take place, it's still going to move darn near 2,000 gigs of data 1,800, 1,700 gigs of data. So it's going to take a little while. I might end up ending the stream before this process gets done, but not to worry, I won't finish this off camera. I will wait until I'm live again to continue on. But this could take quite a while. PE for Doer says, Carey, I've been a tech and I'm hoping to be a successful YouTuber. What do you suggest? Just make as many videos as you can. Try and make a video at least 3 times a week and be patient. Debbie says, it's nice to see you back. Thank you, Debbie. It's from Debbie and Andrew in Horwich in the UK. How long did it take for me to reach 100,000 subs? Well, when I first started my YouTube channel, I really didn't care. I only made like 1 video. It just showed how to build a computer, and I had to break it into several parts because YouTube only allowed newcomers to make videos 10 or 15 minutes in length. So I had to have a part 1, part 2, part 3, and there was no way to annotate or to connect the videos together. So the view numbers were all skewed. You know, part 4 would have more views than any of the other parts. Like, how does that make any sense? And after a certain number of views and a certain number of subscribers, then they were able to remove the time limit, which, well, there's still a time limit, I think it's 12 hours. And to enable eventually monetization. But that took about 7 years to hit 100,000 subscribers. But that's all organic. I didn't do anything to promote or market my YouTube channel. You can hire people and companies and partners to help promote your channel, and they will cost you quite a bit of money. And if YouTube's not making money for you, it becomes, you know, like every businessman's decision. If you walk into a grocery store and you see all those aisles of groceries, somebody had to pay for that to be there. So when you buy it, it's available. If they don't have enough of it in stock, or they don't stock it at all, then you're looking for it, you're not going to buy it. You can't sell, you can't buy what they're not selling. So they need to offer the biggest assortment of groceries for everybody in general, with some concern over what it's costing them to get this stuff unboxed, pay their employees to get it off the truck, get it on the shelves, keep extra in the back room. All that has to get paid for. YouTube is no different in that you're going to have to come forward with some money to get your camera, to get your microphone, and just start simple. You can do your own marketing. You can go to places, forums, Reddit, other forums that are in line with the subject at which you're talking about, and promote yourself, but be prepared for people to call you a spammer. There's millions of YouTube channels, and how would anybody find you if you don't put yourself out there? So not only do you have to make the content, but you also have to now make people aware that the content is there. What I did is I simply used keywords and let search algorithms take care of it, and I didn't care, right? At that time, I just didn't care if people watched the video or they didn't. It wasn't for a year, more than a year, that I received a check from Google that I thought was a fake, scam thing. I think the threshold was you had to make $100 for Google to cut you a check. And Google owns YouTube. So when I got the $100 check, it was like $110. I did some research to figure out what fresh scam is this. Only to learn that it was not a scam, it was real, and this is from my YouTube channel that I forgot about, from the video I posted or the series of videos. It was 2 videos on how to build a computer, but they were 4 to 6 parts each. So it was maybe a total of 12 videos that were 15 minutes apart each. And I said, wait, I get paid for this? I need to make more videos. And that's when I started to make a few more videos, but then it was cutting into my business, and then my customers were getting upset at my lack of availability. So then I had to take care of my customers because that's my bread and butter. Well, in my spare time, do things for YouTube. So YouTube again took a back seat for a few years, and I would make, a couple videos a month just because I enjoyed it. And as customers were dropping off for various reasons, some retired or sold their businesses, some we just didn't get along. It just wasn't working anymore. They needed more of me than I could give. One particular customer wanted me to be available anytime they called, as if I had, I guess the customer thought I was just sitting at home staring at my phone. And it just wasn't realistic. And you can't let a single customer monopolize you. If you do, you're not self-employed anymore. You might as well just go work for them directly. And that was my advice. My advice for them was they need to hire somebody full-time. But the person full-time they needed to hire knew how to, they needed to hire somebody that could do the work they do and also was a computer tech, because they didn't have enough need for a 40-hour computer tech. But if they expect a problem to get fixed instantly, they need somebody on site all the time. So this place was a tax preparation business. So you need a tax preparer who is also a computer tech. That's the guy you need to hire, or the gal. Anyway, they're not in business anymore, so it doesn't matter. But when these customers started dropping off, I reached a fork in the road where I said, okay, I have a decision to make. Do I want to replace those customers with more customers? Or do I want to use the spare time to make more videos? And I decided to use the spare time to make more videos. I'm down to 2 retainers now. At my peak, I had about 6. I think I had about 6. 6 retainers is a lot for a self-employed with no employees. If 2 or 3 call you at the same time, how do you triage that? How do you decide who gets service first when they're all prioritized? That's stressful. So the YouTube videos create a different kind of stress. The downside of getting popular on YouTube is you get attacked. You've witnessed the attacks here. We have seen the attacks in the discussions that happen on sites like 4chan, 8chan, places like that where people try and find others who equally hate. I hate this guy. Does anybody else hate this guy? Because they're weak and delusional, they can't work on their own. So they have to find like-minded delusional people to gang up. When I was looking on 8chan, I saw a group of people looking to take down small YouTubers. It didn't matter who you were. If you had under 200 subscribers, let's go after every YouTuber with under 200 subscribers and get them to shut down. Doesn't matter who they are or what they're doing. Why? These are the discussions that happen on 8chan. This is just spewing hatred and toxicity that's not benefiting anybody. I hope that site's gone for good. I really do. Might be running into a battery issue here. Let me see. Did I not plug my camera back in? Hold on a minute. When I set my equipment back up, yeah, I have to plug my camera in. That would probably help. So yeah, so the downside of getting popular on YouTube is that you will be attacked. I can guarantee you will be attacked. Now, what those attacks will be, it's hard to say. It could be anything from, having people blow up your phone, figuring out where you live and sending food to your house, sending taxis and tow trucks and anything they can to harass you. That's their form of entertainment. So if you're going to go out, if you're going to put yourself out there, it's not a matter of having a VPN or anything like that. You have to decide very carefully what you're going to show on camera. Things that might be in the background might give away where you are. They might give away something about you, something you just say off the cuff, especially if you're doing something live. if you're hiding, which most people are. Most people, when you see a celebrity, they're usually, their homes are tucked away with gates and guards and bushes you can't see so that they're not harassed. When you become sort of a YouTube celebrity, when you gain popularity, there are people that are going to hate you. It's just how it is. They wouldn't know you if you didn't start your YouTube channel. And so the downside of getting popular is it follows with attacks. And you'll just have to take it. Like that is your reward for success. If you never achieve 100,000 subscribers, you're less likely to be attacked. In fact, if you don't make YouTube videos at all, you're less likely to be attacked. Just putting yourself out on a single video, like I said, that whole discussion on 8chan was to go after YouTubers that had fewer subscribers and to try and shut them down for no apparent reason. It wasn't they wanted to get certain YouTubers or certain, is this person a liberal? Is this person a Republican? This was, if it's just a small YouTuber, let's take them down. It's just fun for them. So be careful what you wish for and prepare for it so that you won't be blindsided by it. And ideally, if you're careful, you won't ever have to deal with it. Though, at some point, it may not be anything that you do. Even just giving your real name may be enough for a website that you visit is hacked. That information is distributed. Your name is in the database. They search for it. Takes 2 seconds. There's your name. There's everything you inputted into the site. Could be Equifax, could be a credit card company, maybe no fault of your own, and now they've got your social security number, your address, your phone number. They know everything about you. One of the ways that I get around this is I dox myself. I put information out. The great thing about doxing, so doxing is when you release, typically it's a celebrity address, phone number, social security number. So what I do to get ahead of it is I doxbin myself with false information, because doxbin doesn't know what's real and what's not. And it's funny, you shouldn't believe anything on the internet. So just so you guys know, there's a lot of false information about me. If you start looking into my background with regards to anything that claims to have personal information about me, there's a good chance what you're reading is something that I put there in order to poison the well for those people. So if you're looking for an address and you see there's several addresses for me listed, that's so you won't know which one's actually mine, even though one of them may actually be mine, or it may not be. That's the only way I know to counter this, is to jump right in before they get there and dox yourself. That being said, I just want you to be aware of the consequences of becoming popular on YouTube, which, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not there yet, and it's already started with me. But the good news is, I know several people have been arrested with regards to harassment with me. There are still several others, and I do work sometimes when I'm not on camera. I'm working with law enforcement so that we can identify the locations, and educating law enforcement in the tracing and how, like I said, VPNs don't work. They're not the secure thing you think they are. But what I'm trying not to do is to publicize it. I'm going to talk about it briefly, and then I probably won't talk about it anymore, because I want to keep the bait out there. I actually want them to keep attacking me. The more they keep attacking me, the greater likelihood, the sooner I'm going to find them. And by teaching that to the government, showing them how to do that, and working with them, hopefully the message gets out that this anonymity that people think they have on the internet is an illusion. And any time that data is sent and received, that data can be traced to its final point on both sides. It's time consuming, and it requires a little bit of creativeness, but the very basic sense of it is that if you can see the data at where the data stops, the person sending the data can also see where the data stops. Regardless of how many VPNs and how you route it, if it shows up on your screen and that's where the data stops traveling, that's where it can be traced to. So the more people do that, the easier it is to go after them. So anyway, welcome to being successful on YouTube, if you want to call it that. the money I make off YouTube is not enough to live off of. So that harassment is coming, for a payment that's not worth the harassment. But I enjoy what I do, so be aware of that. Carey, when are you going to be cooking again, like a pizza? I just made a pizza the other night. I should have filmed it, huh? John Small says use Bona for your floor. I don't know what that is. Apparently it's some kind of floor cleaner. Just looking through some other questions here. What do you attribute to your success on YouTube? I don't consider myself successful on YouTube. I don't have 1 million subscribers. When I hit 1 million subscribers, then the actual revenue should be livable. But at this point, I don't consider, I'm grateful for having the subscribers I have, and it's certainly bigger than I anticipated that it would be. What I'm doing is a niche thing. And so what inspires me is to see other tech YouTubers with several million. And then I go, well, geez, if they can get several million, there's no reason I can't get at least 1 million. But until I hit 1 million, it's nothing. It's really nothing. So I'm glad you think it's successful, but the paycheck says otherwise. Looks like Dawn is asking a question about a system I know nothing about. Like there's nothing about, is it a laptop? Is it a desktop? Did you build it yourself? How old is it? What's it made of? When did the problem start? The best thing you can do would be to visit a site called techguy.org. Again, that link is in the video notes below the video. And the reason that I'm advising you to go there is because there's a ton of questions that you have to answer, a ton of them, several of which I just asked. And that information needs to be considered before any offer of solution can be offered. Generally speaking, with problems like that, I'd say I'd have to see it. Get the computer get it to me, and I'll put it on my workstation, and we'll diagnose it live here on video. A system I've never seen before, and you're not telling me anything about, I have no idea. No idea. Do you refuse to use MSI? It's not that I refuse to use MSI. I just have no reason to leave Gigabyte or ASUS. Now, when and if they give me a reason to leave, I will certainly jump to ASRock or MSI. My system in my office is running the ASRock board that I built a few months back. I've been upset with it for quite a while because sometimes when it boots, it goes into the BIOS. The latest BIOS update seems to have corrected that finally after like a year. And then the MSI system that I built was one of the most expensive boards I've ever purchased for that level of machine. And it's fantastic. Customers very happy with it. So I don't have any complaint right now with ASRock or MSI. I didn't like ASRock's BIOS layout. And I didn't like how I would reboot my machine and it would just go right into the BIOS and not boot it, which was really frustrating. Again, since the latest BIOS, and I updated the BIOS 3 or 4 times and it still kept doing it, but this latest BIOS seems to have addressed whatever that was. On the MSI side, didn't have any problems with the MSI at all. The BIOS the layout was a little funky, but I'm used to Gigabyte and ASUS layouts. So why would I voluntarily switch to an unfamiliar platform in a BIOS I'm not familiar with and give up a platform where I can be much more efficient? I can know what to expect. I know what to expect for price. I know where to go in the BIOS for the options I'm looking for, what options to expect and how to find them and what it looks like. No person can be an expert in all things, or you end up just being okay. I want to be excellent at what I do. And so by limiting the parts and components that I choose to manufacturers that have proven themselves to me to be reliable, a value for a dollar, that gives me the opportunity to extend a level of expectation to my customers. That's very reasonable. I can tell a customer with certainty that if we select these parts, this system is statistically likely to run for you problem-free for many, many years. And I can say that because I built so many. Now, if I start experimenting with other parts, and you're my customer and we're spending your money, and I say to you, this is what I recommend because this is what I always use. That doesn't mean things I don't use don't work. That just means this is what I always use and this is what I know works. For fact, evidence. I build a lot of machines. Do you want to be a guinea pig and have me use something else and we'll see if it works as well? Because I'm happy to build it if you want to be the guinea pig. So what would you want? And so each customer gets to decide for themselves. I don't shove anything down a customer's throat. I don't say you've got to have this board or you've got to have this memory. The only thing I will do is if a customer wants to build a machine that I believe is going to be a support nightmare, I won't build it. I don't want to go out of business. I don't want some customer taking up my time with problem after problem over a configuration that I believed right from the get-go was going to be problematic. Like an X99 or an X299 or a Threadripper. I don't want to build those. They're too problematic. That's going to tarnish my reputation as a builder. That's all the customer sees. I spent top dollar for this and it's nothing but problems. Yeah, it is. That's the way those systems are. It's like a Ferrari. It's one of the fastest cars you can buy and it'll be in the shop a lot. So if you want something reliable and you want something that is going to perform well for the money, stay away, in my opinion, from the X399, X299, and X99 chipsets unless you absolutely have to have it. Now, if there's a business that says we have to have this workstation because it's doing this heavy rendering, and I say that's fine, I'll build it because they know that I'm going to be billing them every time it breaks and they're going to be paying me for it because they have to have it. And that's not to say that all these X299s and X99s and X399s are all bad. Certainly there's some out there that are running great. The difference is, if and when they stop running great, I don't want to be the guy they call and expect to fix for free because it's under warranty and it has nothing to do with me. The fact that the VRMs are bad or the fact that some component on the board is not up to par. And the board has to be. It's a very big labor-intensive job. And customer is going to be like, tick-tock, tick-tock, where's my system? Why are you taking so long? It's very stressful. And to do it for free? So if there's certain components you don't see here, that's the only reason why. There's a level of experience that I have, actual experience with certain manufacturers, and they reflect my business. I choose a bad manufacturer, it reflects on me. Customer doesn't know Asus from Gigabyte. They just know I bought a computer from Carey and it sucked. And he was horrible. If I choose to just go with peer pressure and go, well, you should use AMD because you're an Intel fanboy. Well, you're not the one that has to support it. You're not the one that's got to take the calls from the customer with all the questions. So you use what you want to use. I'll use what I want to use. And I'll build for my customers what they want to build. But I will advise them what to expect. And that's my line of reasoning on it. I have to stay in business. And unless AMD is paying me to use their stuff, and AMD is going to pay me and reimburse me to support their stuff, it's great to save the customer some money, but when it starts costing you as a business money and support calls, you won't have a business very long. Other questions? I need a machine that is the ultimate NAS file system. Just buy a NAS. Go get yourself a 2-drive Synology, throw 2 14 terabyte Seagate Iron Wolves in it, be done with it. It has a footprint of about this big. It's completely silent. It has a graphical user interface, super easy to configure. You can even run Linux on it if you wanted to run a virtual machine. It's slow, it'll do it. Use it as a Plex server, use it as a FTP, use it as your own private cloud. Forget reusing an old machine. It's going to cost you more in power. You're going to have, it's going to require more technical knowledge to get it configured. Just get the Synology, be done with it. It's 2 plugs. You plug it in the wall for power, you plug in your Ethernet connection. You're done. You're done. Get on with life. Put those 2 14 terabyte drives in a RAID 1, so when one drive fails, you've got everything on the other drive. It's 14 terabytes of storage. It's cheap. You could do it for $1,000. Well, that's not true, because you need 2 drives and the Synology. You could do it for around $1,200, $1,300. And that's all new and under warranty, by the way. Chat room's awful quiet today, guys. We've got over 700 people watching, and no other questions here. Yeah, this Acronis is going to take a while. This customer has a lot of data. Carey, I recently bought a used PC, but the hard drive won't boot, and I can't try to hook it up externally to get the files off of it. You should never need to get the files off of a hard drive. You should always have a backup of any important files. So I don't know why you're in that position to begin with. All I would recommend is you replace the drive and reinstall your operating system to be done with it, and count it as a lesson learned and start making copies of important files. All hard drives die. And furthermore, people get viruses, and people get malware and ransomware, and people accidentally delete files. And there's all these reasons why people lose their data. If you couldn't be bothered to back it up, I really don't want to be bothered to explain to you how to recover it, because it's a lot easier to explain to you how to back it up. And I've been saying this for 20 years, more than 20 years. And nobody cares to listen until suddenly they can't get their data. Now they want to listen. I'd love to help you, but you didn't do me much of a favor by putting yourself in that position. And I know that sounds awfully cold, but you have no idea how often I get asked that. And data recovery is very time consuming and very expensive and very complicated. Carey, after Acronis is run, do you still have to install the programs? No, Acronis is making a mirror image of everything on the hard drive. Every temp file, every program, every registry entry, any bit of data on the hard drive, all those ones and zeros, regardless of what they represent, are being cloned over to the other drive. That's why it's called a clone. If I were doing a reinstall, then obviously I'd have to put the programs back in. So understand what a clone means versus a reinstall. And this is why cloning is such a valuable tool to attack, because it's very convenient and efficient for the tech which is very appealing to the customer to get their machine back the way they gave it to you, only now it's faster. The customer will see no difference in this case because the drives are the same size. The wallpaper, the location of the icons, everything is exact. It is a clone. Look up the word clone. What are your thoughts about Harmony OS from Huawei as an alternative for Android? I don't see any reason to find an alternative to Android. Android does everything I need it to do, so why would I want to move away from it? That doesn't make any sense. And with the political situation with Huawei, why would I risk potential security issues when there's nothing wrong? Like, there's no motive for me to leave Android. Why would I leave Android? What's wrong with Android? We could talk about potentially what's wrong with Huawei. Carey, what all-in-one cooler do you recommend to your gamer clients? Most gamers shouldn't be running an all-in-one cooler. If you're a serious gamer, the cooler isn't going to make a difference in how good you are as a gamer. It's sort of, you know, as a joke I tell, where this photographer, his work was being put on display. They were having a dinner for this photographer to celebrate his work. And this lady said to him, "You have amazing, wonderful pictures. You must have an amazing, wonderful camera." And he didn't say anything to her, but when she was serving dinner, he looked at the food and he looked at her and he said, "This looks like you did an amazing job cooking this food. You must have amazing and wonderful cookware." Your computer is not going to make you a better gamer. If you suck, it doesn't matter how fast your computer is. If you're not a good driver, buying a better car does not make you a better driver. So if you're a serious gamer, you work on whatever the skills are required to play that game. And it is not your frames per second. It has nothing to do, well, beyond a certain point, right? I mean, if you're getting an unplayable frame rate, that's one thing. But once you hit a certain frame rate, the returns are you're just competing with other strangers on the internet over something that doesn't matter. If you're good at the game, I can give you any computer and put that game on it, and you can still beat my butt. And you know that. And if you're not good at the game, having a computer giving you faster frames per second or overclocking your CPU isn't going to make you any better. You'll just die faster. Maybe not. But it honestly, it's not making you a better gamer. Don't worry about what your cooler, it's really ridiculous. I'm sorry, but a 12-year-old with a 6-year-old computer might whoop your butt when you have a $3,000 rig built to some specifications that are ridiculous because you're just not as good as the 6-year-old. That's possible and happens frequently on the internet. So think about how you want to spend your money, especially if you're a gamer. That's really not giving you an advantage. It isn't. And any real gamer will confirm this. Like anybody who's like a professional gamer, this guy in Denmark, I think it was Denmark, won like $3 million in Fortnite. You think he's got some outrageous rig? I don't even know, but I'll bet you he doesn't. I bet you he's got a pretty standard rig. He's just really good at the game. When the guy goes up to bat in the major leagues, how important do you think the bat is? You think it's got to be a Louisville Slugger or it's got to be a certain brand? I'm sure that the batter has a preference. But if the batter has no choice, you think the batter just isn't going to be able to hit the ball? So think about it. Zero Core says, greetings from Montana. Always good to have viewers from big empty places like Montana and South Dakota and North Dakota, Alaska. They sound wonderful. Sounds very peaceful. Are you going to upgrade your streaming machine to a 3000 series processor? No, I think what I'm going to do is retire the streaming computer and step away from AMD on that, and use the Intel 87. What do I have? I have an 8086K in the Nuka-Cola case sitting in a box in my office, and I think that will stream much quieter and much better than the 2700X I've got here. I bought it primarily because a lot of people in the chat were harassing me about not using AMD, and I wanted to prove I'm not closed-minded. I don't think I'm closed-minded. I don't have any problem with AMD. I just see better value with Intel, with a matured platform. The 3000 series, we're right back to square one, where everybody's focusing on the chip and nobody's focusing on the chipset. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see such blinded tunnel vision from people, where they're so blindly wanting to just promote the underdog that they don't care that they're going to spend more money. You know, AMD's high-end chip is more expensive than Intel's equivalent. Deal with all of the BIOS updates and everything to deal with all the new problems, and then deal with potential motherboard problems because the boards are all new. And again, I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to stay in business. I'm not trying to be a pioneer, and I'm not trying to carve a pathway. I'm trying to show people a safe investment opportunity with realistic expectations. And I can't do that with anything brand new because it hasn't been proven yet. It can only be proven in time. And it doesn't make me anti-AMD. It makes me pro value of dollar in time. Some people just have a lot of time on their hands and they don't mind these problems. But when customers are calling you and saying, you need to stop what you're doing and come over here right now. I don't care how busy traffic is, and I don't care what tolls you have to pay, and I don't care what else you're doing. Stop it all and get over here, or we'll find somebody else who does. So when you have those kind of pressures, it's just not time to experiment and turn people into guinea pigs. And with my streaming machine, it's been loud. And I've considered changing out the stock cooler with a Mugen 5. I'm looking down at the machine right now. It ramps up. You'll hear it ramp up. It's just really annoying. I've had some problems with OBS going out of sync, which I think are AMD related. And I have issues with not being aware when new chipsets are released. I don't get any automatic updates from AMD. There doesn't seem to be any way to be alerted to it. So I'm just going to stick with Intel because it's just a more mature platform that just seems to work more reliably, and I don't have to deal with it. I want to keep working on new things. I don't want to go back and have to keep fixing things. It's just not a lot of money in that. David wants to know, he's trying to find a quiet cooler for his 9900K. Do you have any recommendations? I've used the Mugen 5 on the 9900K, and it was acceptable, but not great. You really want to go probably with an all-in-one cooler, a liquid cooler on a 9900K, but you don't have to. I'll be building a 9900K next week, and I'm going to put the Mugen 5 on it. We'll see how it performs. If it's not up to my standard, I'll replace it with something else. But I want to see how the Mugen 5 does first and foremost. So stay tuned. Give us a tour of your new floor. That was earlier on. All the pictures were posted earlier. You can rewind this video. It's a live video, but it has a DVR mode, so you can rewind it right now and go back to that part of the video. Chester says, we're here to learn and occasionally ask you to clarify. Yes, yes, please do. If I'm not clear, I don't know that unless you tell me. How's my dad doing? Oh, thank you for asking. He seems to be better. He seems more self-aware. He's not 100%. He's maybe 60%. Before he was at 20%. So hopefully in time we'll get him back to 100%. But we are on the right path. Wim says the Mugen 5 PCGH edition cools his 9900K just fine under full load all cores for 3+ hours. Doesn't even hit 85 degrees. Well, we're going to find out next week for sure, but that's good to hear. Carey, what's your take on a single SSD for data and one for the operating system? It's just old school thinking, just ridiculous these days. Unless you have a ton of data, like let's say, for example, you need 6 terabytes of storage. It's very expensive to do that on solid state. But for regular folks, you just put your stuff on a drive and make sure you back up your data. Because what good does it do you if the data drive fails? What good does it do you if the data drive gets infected with a virus? What good does it do you if a thief comes in and steals your computer? Or there's a fire, or there's a flood, or there's some sort of oops, didn't mean to erase that kind of thing happening, or there's ransomware. You're no safer. That's all an illusion. The only way you're safe is you make a copy of anything that's important to you and you keep it unplugged and disconnected, so that, and ideally keep it in another building, so that if something happens at that building, like a fire, a theft, or a flood, the data exists elsewhere. Even if you put it up into the cloud, that's still better than leaving it connected to your PC at all times. But I can't tell you what your data is worth, so you do with it what you think it's worth doing to it. If you think that you're better off having your data on a separate drive, don't let me stop you. I wouldn't advise it, unless, like I say, that one circumstance where you just need a ton of storage. And if you need a ton of storage, I recommend you back up that ton of storage. Thank you, Jesse. Scott Hallinan says the new 570 motherboards have been delayed. I thought they were out already. Ravendra says, I think the old drive is starting to die. It's taking ages to clone it. Yeah, it may be, but this is part of the job. You just gotta let it go. I've got a customer that next week he's got a Synology NAS, 4-drive NAS. And I recommend he change the drives every 2 to 3 years. So we were at the 2-year mark last year. And he said, what do you think? Should I change out my drives? I said, well, it's your call. You could easily go another year, I'm sure. And so now we hit year 3. He says, do you think I should change out my drives? I said, well, what size are they? He's like, they're 2 terabytes each. So he's got a RAID 5 with 4 2-terabyte drives. He's got 6 terabytes of storage. And then 1 2-terabyte drive is there as a spare swap. And I said, how full is it? And he says, I got it about 4 terabytes full. And I said, okay, yeah, let's change them out. Let's go with 4 terabyte drives. We'll get you a lot more space. We'll double your space. And we'll get you new drives that are less likely to fail. But what that means is I got to move like 5 or 6 terabytes, whatever it is, of data. There's a couple of ways you can do this, right? You can either start replacing one drive at a time and let it rebuild, and it's going to take forever. Or my plan is, let me take the NAS from you over a weekend, and I will take the 8 terabyte, I'll take the 5 or 6 terabytes off of it. I'll just put it onto a USB drive. I've got like an 8 terabyte USB drive. You can turn any drive into a USB drive, by the way. Just take an 8 terabyte drive, drop it into a USB drive dock, and it's going to take a while, right? Because I'm going through USB. It'll be USB 3, but it's still a ton of data. And I'm just going to copy all the files and say, move all the files over there. And then go do something else for a day or 2. When it's done, probably take 20 hours, I'm going to guess. Then I can take those 4 drives out, put the 4 new drives in, configure them into the RAID 5 array, format them, and then copy all the data back over. Take another 20 hours. Then I give it back to the customer. I make a note in my calendar in 3 years to let them know, might want to start thinking about replacing these drives rather than waiting until they fail. The problem with waiting until they fail, even with the spare drive, sometimes two fail at once because they're all the same age. It happened to me. So once bitten, twice shy. I recommend mechanical drives get replaced every 2 to 3 years if they're mission critical. So in this case, he's got all this critical data on it. He doesn't back it up to the cloud, and he's relying on that spare drive. And if there's a fire or a flood or a theft, that data's gone forever. He's aware of that, and he's okay with it. But all I can do is give the end user all the information. They understand the expense, they understand the risk, they understand the inconvenience potentially, and then we move forward. And then if the worst case scenario that I paint happens, customer was warned, right? Customer knew that was an option, the customer accepted that, and they won't attack me about it. And I've had that conversation. Yep. Unfortunately, I've had that conversation. Remember when you told me that thing could happen? Yeah, well, it happened. You were right. Sorry. You don't want to say, I told you so. You don't want to say, well, I warned you. You don't want to do that. Just offer the customer sympathy. Nobody can know if or when it's going to happen, but we can always be prepared for it just in case. And if you decide you don't want to, for whatever reason, at least you can't say I didn't know. Matthew says, it's very interesting trying to go about your day and still have time to run a business and fix a computer all in one. It's a huge juggling. Yeah, it's it's a lot of juggling. Yeah, trying to get a floor installed and run a business and coordinate everything with YouTube. Plus, working with folks like Acronis, trying to get things coordinated, working on trying to get travel arrangements set up for Michigan, as well as everything needed to attend that event so that I'm not turned away at the door. All that has to be set up in advance. My friend has been hosting my email for 15 years. He goes, we're retiring the server. It's a 2008 server that the owner of the server doesn't want to replace it, and we're going to retire it. So I can't host your email anymore. So I had to make a few phone calls, get a new email host, and then transfer my email provider over, which changes all the, I got to go into the DNS settings, change all the MX records. I got to find time, to get the car for an oil change, or to take the dog to the groomer, or, life, going to the dentist, getting a haircut. This all has to happen during daylight hours. I can't go see the doctor at 8 o'clock at night. So it is a very much a juggling act, for sure. It's about what I say, it's finding balance. Boomhauer 100's contributed $2. He goes, have $1.60 after Google's cut. I love the content. Well, thank you, man. Thank you, Boomhauer. I appreciate that. I love Boomhauer. He was my favorite. Man, I'll tell you what, you get on their internet and go click, 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 click. It's real easy, man. Are you still going to Michigan this year? Yeah. Grand Rapids. The link for the event that I'll be attending is in the video notes below the video. When will external backups go to SSD? That's up to you. Whenever you want to convert it to SSD, nobody's stopping you. Look at the progress bar. We will be here for hours. No, we won't, because I will wrap up this video feed here shortly and just let it run until it's done. As a technician, you will learn. You will learn. Leave it alone until it's done. Anything you do to try and speed it up is only going to take more time. Troll McTrolling says, where do you find the motivation besides work to get up and just work on computers, I have these moments where I'm at a predicament where it's like, ugh, not this crap again. I think that's going to happen with any job you do every day. Everybody gets bad days. Sometimes I think I'm having a good day, and then a customer calls me and turns my day bad, right? I mean, I allow it to happen. The best thing that I would recommend to you is check out my Life 101 series, and I'm going to be focusing more on that, which has a lot to do with attitude. You are in control, whether you realize it or not, of your mood and of your motivation. And a lot of times, at least in my experience, the things I don't really feel like doing are the things I really need to do to feel better. It's kind of weird. I know I need to start working out again. I know I'm getting very easily exhausted. I don't have the energy I used to have, and I don't have the strength I used to have. And if I wait too long to start, like, I could drop on the floor and start doing push-ups, right? Anybody can do that. You don't need any special equipment to do it. And maybe I might only do 5 or 6 and be exhausted, and that's okay. And then give myself a little break and then try and do 7. You know, if I can't, then I can't. And give myself a little break. Don't push too hard. Don't push too fast. Do it again the next day. Go for 7. If I hit 7, next time try and go for 8. If I do 8 and I still feel good, keep going. How far can I go until I can't? Can I hit 10? Till I can't go anymore. And then give myself a rest and go easy on myself. And like that, you'll be doing 100. And you'll just, and then when you stand up and you'll feel energized and you'll feel better, and you'll be like, man, I really I didn't feel like doing those push-ups today, but now that I've done them, I'm pumped up and I feel good. So the brain has this weird way of sort of, at least in my life, discouraging me from doing the very thing I know I need to do. And when I put mind over matter and I force myself to do it, I feel the reward, and I'm glad I did it. So I guess what I'm saying is, on those days where I feel like, oh, I really don't want to do this today, once I start doing it, I can't stop. This happened a lot when I was writing my book. Like, oh God, I really don't want to write this book. It's so tedious. I got to do every little detail. Then I said, you know what? I'm just going to write a paragraph. That's it. Just going to write a paragraph. And I'd start typing out the paragraph, and I'd be like, well, that gives me a thought. Let me just finish that thought. And then 3-4 pages later, I'm like, I think I got a chapter here if I just, right? And now it's past dinner time. I haven't eaten. And I'm like, I don't want to stop. But everybody's different. But in my case, doing it, even if I don't want to, kind of starts out slow, but then once I find the groove, I don't want to come out of it. Madi's just contributed $2.10. Thank you, Madi. It would be nice if you could call a more detailed status of what file the program is. What difference does it make? Who cares? So this type of control is completely unnecessary and is detrimental to your efficiency as a technician. I can tell you, if you want to be successful as a technician, then you need to stop that mindset of wanting to know what's happening all the time. When you get to know a piece of software and trust a piece of software, like I've been using Acronis for years, I don't need to supervise it. Once I've set it in motion, what I need to do is leave it the hell alone. Now I can start working on another machine. And if that machine, let's say, needs an antivirus scan, it's going to take a while. Now I can go work on a third machine. And now I'm billing 3 machines at the same time, and customers don't have to wait much longer. But if you're going to sit there and nitpick the entire process of the software, you shouldn't be using that software. You should write your own software. Because as long as you need to have that constant reminder or verification or evidence that it's performing in the way that you believe it should, you have too much time on your hands. You're not busy enough. You should be doing something else. Unless it's a brand new piece of software that you just don't know yet. That's different. But I've been using Acronis since 2009. I don't need to see any more than I'm seeing. And to do so It offers me no benefit. That's called anxiety. So just so you know, that's called anxiety. And I think anxiety is bad, me personally. It's a waste of energy because it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change what is or what will be just because you have anxiety. It's not a logical emotion. Well, most emotions aren't. But if you can put mind over matter over it, and you can trust the software, and you focus on business, and you focus on helping people, and everybody, it's done when it's done. And check it when it's done. Skiman says, I went back to view your floor before and after. The new floor was really nice. Thank you. I love my floor. I love this floor. John Feiner says, I'm anxious about anxiety. Yeah, well, that's anxiety. Chris Crass says, hello from Holland. We love watching you, Carey. Keep it up. Well, thank you. Wish I was in Holland. Maybe someday. Have I had any pretzels lately? No, I have not had any pretzels lately. I am trying to be just a little more health conscious. And bread it's not helping me. I love bread, but I have to really cut down. If I, mentioned I don't have the energy I used to have, I don't have the strength I used to have, and adding weight doesn't give you more energy or more strength. It just exhausts you that much quicker. So my theory is to try and lose a little bit of weight, try and do a little more cardio or something to sort of bring that energy level back up. Because if I don't do it now, will it be any easier to do it tomorrow? Probably not. Will it be any easier to do it 3 months from now if I just let it continue to degrade? Like if it's going to be, if I feel like, gosh, it just sounds like a lot of work, it's only going to be more work the longer I put it off. So do or die, you got to accept your fate and you pick it. You just want to get fatter and weaker and run out of energy and die? Or do you want to have more energy and make the most of every day and feel better, even though it's going to require some work? It's your choice. Niles Van de Sand says, why is business going bad for Subway in America, but it's booming in Europe? Why would I know? There are trends in American culture, well, probably in European culture too, well, but especially in American culture with foods. So look, McDonald's, people sit there and tell you how bad McDonald's is, and yet it's always busy when I go there. It's like, oh, I don't eat at McDonald's. Well, nobody eats at McDonald's. But then you go to McDonald's and everybody's there. So it's like they eat there, but they don't want to admit that they eat there. It's very strange. And then you have stores that, there was a trend of these sort of do-it-yourself stores, like Subway. Of course you're going to like the sandwich at Subway. You basically made it, right? You told the person more of this, less of that. They have pizza places like that now. Chipotle is like that. That's sort of the trend. And now there's a big vegan push, the Impossible Burger and Beyond Burger. And then the question is, are these actually any better for you? But when you look at the calorie count, you look at the carb count, in some cases they're worse than meat. But they're saying the production of meat is causing a lot of danger to the environment. The cost, primarily the the whole processing, the raising of the cattle or the pigs, the livestock, the amount of food that has to be grown to feed them, the processing of it. A lot of people think it's very inhumane, but a lot of people also believe that it's not sustainable, that we are damaging the soil, and it's just not going to grow like it is now. And we're already seeing that devastation, and food may get scarce and very expensive 40, 50 years from now, whatever, however far ahead, who knows? There's always doomsayers. And if we switch to a plant-based diet, that's sustainable, much more so. But is it better for you? Well, I mean, obviously, if you have health concerns with regards to things contained in meat, but a lot of this stuff, like the burger, that Burger King is going to sell the Impossible Burger for a while. They're putting mayo on it. Well, mayo's with eggs, right? So that's not really vegan. And all the things that are unhealthy about a burger are generally still on this burger. It's just that they're using a plant-based product to simulate what meat is. They're also cooking. My understanding is they're cooking the Impossible Burger on the same grill with the meat, which vegans, that's a big no-no. My understanding of that is anyway. So, maybe that's got something to do with Subway. I don't know. These trends, they come and go, and as the next generation comes up, they prioritize. My generation prioritized survival, just eating. Going out to eat was not something that was done very often. Not in the 80s, not in my family. Times were tight. Now it seems like everybody's got cable TV and video games and computers and internet. We couldn't first of all, it didn't exist, but if it did exist, I can tell you we couldn't afford it. So the economy right now is really, really good. I can tell because nobody's picking up aluminum cans in my neighborhood. I see full bottles of water that have never been opened at the schoolyard just laying in the field. Nobody will pick them up. Brand new, never been opened. Kids don't care. So there's this, I guess life is getting better. I think that's what every parent wants for their child. They want an easier life. I think I had an easier life than my parents did. And I think the kids growing up now have an easier life than my nephew did. But is this a good thing or a bad thing? Is it making us weaker? And is it making us more dependent? Because we don't have any skills anymore that we used to have to survive. I don't know the answers to any of that. I really don't know. But with each generation comes different trends. In the 70s and the 80s, there was a big push for equal rights for women. That has continued now, but is extended beyond that to equal rights for everybody, including people who don't want to fit into a specific gender, which is a weird, like from my generation, that's a weird thing. Not saying it's bad or it's good, I'm just saying it's weird to me because of how I was raised. And for people being raised today, that's perfectly normal and acceptable. And that is a trend, right? And then the generation that comes after them, they will have their priority. And that generation, when I mentioned the gender identity thing, it's good. I think it's ultimately good that people are able to be who they are. But there's still problems with bullying. And as long as the bullying continues, everybody should have equal rights. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter what your race or your religion or your age or your gender, none of that should matter. Like all it should matter is whether or not you're a jerk, right? Because jerks, they don't just come in one gender or one race or one religion. Everybody should be judged for themselves. And that's how I was raised in the 80s. This is just an extension of that, but it's foreign to me. And so the other thing that's happening, there's a lot of, my nephew won't drink soda. Doesn't like it. I see a lot of younger kids just really want to eat healthy. Good for them. I think it's a waste. Your body can process so much more when you're younger that if you're going to eat unhealthily, in my opinion, do it when you're young. Don't wait till you're 40 years old and go, man, I starved myself of bacon and soda when I was a kid, so I want to make up for that now. Well, no, now you're 40. This is not a good time to make up for that. Your body is not going to process that as well as it would have when you were 12 or 20. So I think there's a kind of a shame that people are denying themselves, potentially, that feeling of enjoyment people get from food because they feel it's bad for them when their body can more than likely process it just fine. It's when you get older, that's when the problems start to happen. And if you've created a habit of eating bacon and soda every day, it can be tough to break that habit. And of course, vaping. Vaping's a big problem. And there'll probably be a generation that's totally against that. But right now, they think it's healthy. They think it's okay. So it's, I'm sure that somewhere in all of that is something to do with Subway. I know that, I just read an article. This company, there's an investment company. They own Budweiser, InBev. It's like a big, like Berkshire Hathaway, big investment company. And they buy out these other companies, and these investors control these companies for profit. So Budweiser's one. They bought Kraft and they bought Heinz, and they merged Kraft and Heinz. And Heinz, their ketchup sales, their sales has just plummeted because everybody wants healthier, less processed foods. And Heinz has done nothing but just keep pushing the same products, the same processed products. And they had to make an investor call. And the same company, the same investors, the whole Berkshire Hathaway, the same company that invests and owns Budweiser also owns Kraft Heinz. So the CEO had to leave because the profits weren't there and the investors are upset. Where's our profits? New CEO steps in and says, look, we haven't been innovating. We haven't been answering to the customers' demands for healthier choices. And we're suffering the financial results as a result of our inaction. Sounds good to me. Is that true? I don't know. I'm kind of fascinated that it's an investment company that runs these corporations. There's something just wrong about that does not sit well with me. And I would love for that to one day be illegal. Because once an investment company takes over a corporation, generally once they're shareholders, it's no longer making anything for a consumer anymore. And they cause a lot of devastation to the environment and to the communities in the name of profit. They just have a history. Corporations, publicly owned corporations that answer to investors, cause a lot of damage. They break up families and destroy families, just like the automobile industry in Detroit. It just devastated Detroit. So, somewhere in all of that, I'm sure the answer to Subway's sales are in there somewhere. I don't know. I really don't know. Is Uncle Carey's Windows 10 optimizer still at version 1.3? It is, yes. Rick says, I got bullied in grade school because I had thick glasses, but now glasses are thinner. Yeah, and stylish. I met a young person wearing glasses, and through the course of our conversation, learned that they were just clear glass. So glasses, up until about the 1990s, glasses were considered a medical device. So if you look at an old movie or an old television show where somebody is wearing glasses, they all look the same. It's like women and men. That was just a medical device. So the rims, the glasses were all, just look at them, pay attention. They're all the same. There was nobody who had different glasses. Or it was pretty rare to see, I should say. Now people are wearing glasses who don't need to wear them because they like the way they look with the glasses on. And they're just clear glass, which is weird to me. Why would you wear something you don't have to, which was intended to, it's like, I like the way this crutch looks, so I think I'm gonna walk around with a crutch. I suppose Madonna's doing it with the eye patch, right? That's her latest thing, is something wrong with her eye? I don't think so. I think she just likes the look of the eye patch, which you can't see through the eye that's being covered by the eye patch. But it's not important what she can see. It's important what you can see. She wants to impress you. Okay. Not only that, but in a lot of glasses now you can get contacts, and people will never know you're wearing glasses. But some glasses are really cool. In some cases, like I said, people can wear them as an accessory, like jewelry, to enhance their look. So that's a change in times, and a good one, I suppose. David Williams says, love the new floor. Nice, thank you, David. Where are the technicians of tomorrow going to come from? Today we have a hard time hiring entry-level techs. It's getting harder every year. That's what I hear. I'm hearing that a lot. I don't know the answer to that either. I mean, colleges are full. Colleges are booked up, turning people away constantly. Student debt's a big issue. That's another thing this generation seems to be very concerned about, being able to get student debt forgiveness. My generation didn't have that. I'm not even sure how it's sustainable, but be that as it may, other countries do it. So can the United States do it? Same with healthcare, same with, all these other political things that are going on. Somebody's got to pay for this. So the real question is, how do we do that? How do we provide for others? Where does the source of revenue come from for that? So I was raised to just sort of be self-reliant. You take care of yourself. You don't rely on the government to give you anything. You don't rely on a company to hire you. If you get a job, you're lucky to have a job. You're not deserved. You don't earn it. You're not entitled to it. And if you don't like it, leave it. The generation now seems a bit more entitled, but then I think my father's generation said that about my generation, and I think his father's generation said that about his generation. So it may just be a side effect of getting older. But each generation wants the next generation to have it easier. But when they have it easier, then the concern is, well, now how are they going to get anything done if everything's being done for them? I don't know. But it won't be my problem. So, and that's another attitude of my generation, right? It's sort of like a lot of people believe that whatever problems a generation has, that generation will solve. It's not my problem, it's their problem, and they'll solve it. Truly believe that's true. Whatever it is, the climate, the jobs, they'll do what they have to do. They won't have a choice. Would it be easier if we were all on the same page, we were all working together? Probably. And that's not going to happen. Robots can do it. Well, somebody's got to build the robots and somebody's got to fix the robots, right? And if you build robots to fix the robots, then who's going to fix those robots? Who's going to build those robots? And if those robots fix robots and build robots, then what do we even exist? And maybe the robots decide, you're just wasting this planet and ruining it, so you all need to die. And now it's Terminator. I mean, that's the whole point of Terminator, right? That's the whole story. Or Battlestar Galactica and the Cylons. It's the same story. Elon Musk is pretty afraid of artificial intelligence. I mean, he's scared to death of it, where it can potentially go. Is that justified? Is he crazy or is he a genius? Only time will tell. Don't know. Glenn says, at 41 years of age, what would be the best way for me to get into the tech field? Get a job. Go apply for an entry-level tech or help desk support position at a big corporation, the power company, the water company, the government. Any government company, government agency is a good place to get hired with not a great paycheck, but you could have a job for life that you could grow. You can get a job at Geek Squad, any of those retail places where they will hire you very cheaply. The problem is going to be at 41 years old is what they're going to offer you for pay is the same thing they're going to pay or offer the 19-year-old. So that's where it gets tough. If you're going in entry level anywhere, you come in at entry level pay, and you have to pay your dues through time and experience to work your way up. I have a very good friend who went to nursing school in her mid-40s, and she's in her early 50s now and works as a nurse and gets paid very well. You have to sacrifice a little today to have more tomorrow, and with no guarantee. So if nothing else, work a part-time job, getting your feet wet in the tech field in some way, shape, or form, so that you start building that experience. Ultimately, you can do anything you set out to do. It just depends how determined you are and what you're willing, how much effort you're willing to put in and what you're willing to sacrifice. One of the things I was brought up with is that the world owes you nothing and you can have anything you want. What they didn't tell me is you can't have everything you want. You will need to sacrifice some things so that you can have other things. You may have to sacrifice 8 or 9 things to get the one thing you really, really want badly. So I really wish they would have included that part, because it kind of set some false expectations. And that reality hit pretty hard when you're forced to make decisions that require you can have this or you can have that. And if you don't make your decision fast enough, you'll get neither. And if you want both equally, you have to make a choice or you lose both of them. Depends how important it is. Sharon Idle says Stephen Hawking was afraid of AI too. Well, certainly there should be some concern there. I just don't know. I mean, how hard is it to unplug something? Like if AI was out of control in my house, I'd just unplug it. It doesn't sound like a real difficult problem to solve. But that's in my house. You know, what if AI is done by a corporation with those shared, shareholders interested in maximizing profit? I can't just go over there and unplug it. It's not mine to do. That would be a crime. So that, I guess, could be a problem. We're quite a ways away from that. Winston Ang Lu has contributed $2 Canadian. Thank you, Winston. I appreciate your support. And Mike Britton has contributed $2. Thank you, Mike. Lord Falk one says, how's the laptop giveaway coming? I still have to order a battery. I haven't been able to do anything with the floors going in. I didn't want any parts coming in. I didn't have any place to put anything. So not only do we have the laptop to give away, there was also the desktop that was also given away that is not shipped yet. I haven't, again, I've been down for 3 weeks. And on top of that, some systems have come in from a couple of contributors that want me to give them away to disabled American veterans. And I will get to that within, well, I don't want to say when, because I don't know yet. But as soon as I can. It may have to wait until after Michigan. I don't know yet. But at this point, I'm just playing catch up. Glenn Davies says, Carey, you've inspired me through your videos to upgrade some of my old PCs, which I haven't done in over 10 years, and I caught up a lot from your posts, so thank you so much. Should I also put in a new floor? I highly recommend it. Very happy with the floor. Jurgen Newton says, I wanted to let you know while you were away, I became 38 years old on the 31st of July. Well, happy belated birthday, Jurgen. You're still in your 30s. You're fine. I'd love to be the guy to rebuild the Dell XPS you tore down. Oh, that's in a dumpster somewhere. That's in a landfill. You know, at some point, there's cost versus time analysis. And that machine was on its third life. I think its third owner. It was well past, you know, this idea of keeping something around. Why don't you just refurbish a buggy and go get a horse? Don't buy a car. I'm sure you could find some old buggies and rebuild them. But at some point you got to realize you're going to have to fabricate many of the parts on your own, spend a whole lot of time, and it will never be as good as a car. So, your choice. Yeah, this copy is awfully slow, but we are moving about 1,800 gigabytes worth of data, which, you know, was going to take a while. But I also feel like something's wonky with that drive. So we'll just go ahead and end this broadcast here in about 10, 15 minutes. So if anybody has any final questions for me, this will be the time to ask. And then once this is done, I'll verify that it boots and works okay. And I won't do any more work to it until I'm live again, which probably, I don't know if I can go live Sunday. Probably be Monday, which means the build I was going to do on Monday is going to get pushed to Tuesday or Wednesday. But that's all right. One thing at a time, one customer at a time. And ensure the consistent work ethic that everybody gets. Don't let time push you to do a half-assed job. It's not acceptable. John A.G. says he's contributed $20 towards the Disabled Veterans Project by PayPal. I appreciate that, John. Are we going from hard drive to SSD? Yes. Now my goal is to refurbish a buggy and become Amish. The Amish people refurbish buggies every day. They can teach you how. They're really good at it. Carey, what is the status on the Kids at Hope charity build? I have not yet started collecting for that, Patrick. Thank you for asking. Until I get caught up, right, with the floors going in and no work getting done, I have a lot of catch up to do. The computers that I owe to the disabled veterans who've been awarded those computers, I have to get those out, as I have committed to, as soon as I can. This new build that's come in, I've got to get that done. There's another build coming in, and there's another build after that. And I think there's another build after that. Once I can get caught up, then I can revisit the charity for Kids at Hope. It is a very important charity for me, but there is just one of me. So I want to reiterate that. When there's a lot of trading going on, the computer freezes up. That's a computer I built, right, John? You'll have to talk to me in email or call me and talk to me about that. I can't help you with that here live because I have a ton of questions. I may even need to connect to you remotely and have you demonstrate it for me. Hopefully we can make it happen and try and see what's happening there. When things freeze on a computer, you have to determine if you're having a hardware problem or a software problem. That's the very first thing that has to be done. And the first thing is you have to repeat the problem. And the second thing would be taking like a spare drive and reinstalling the operating system and then seeing if it still happens. And if it still happens, then we know it's not the operating system or the software. Now it's more likely hardware. Then when it comes to the hardware, we start taking apart hardware piece by piece until the freezing stops. Things like bad memory can cause that. Power that's not being delivered properly by the power supply can cause that. In most cases, when it comes to day trading, because there's some proprietary software involved, it's been my experience, it's the software that's causing those freezes. There's some software from Charles Schwab, a customer of mine was using, that was a nightmare. If it's happening within the browser itself, you want to make sure you try a different browser. Try, if you're using Chrome, try Edge or Firefox or vice versa, and see if you can isolate it down to an incompatibility from the browser to the platform. So day trading, a lot of information is coming in on multiple screens at the same time. Computers should be able to handle that. But if it's freezing, that would be sort of the diagnostic steps I would take. And we built you two, didn't we, John? So are they both freezing? Because then I would suggest to me that there's no way both computers have the same exact problem. That's very unlikely. Then that would lead me more to software. Then it would say, okay, well, what software is it that's causing it? And let's go to that manufacturer or vendor and push them for an answer. Could be driver related too. Could be a network card driver or video card driver. Seems unlikely, but still possible. Carey, do you drive a motorcycle? I swear I saw you on a Harley. No, I drove a motorcycle once and hurt myself. And not majorly, but it was enough that I didn't want to do it anymore. And that was a crotch rocket. I have no interest in loud Harleys. I'm more of a ninja kind of guy, I like a sleek, fast, foreign-made. Sounds terrible. I don't want an Indian. I don't want a Harley. I don't want one of those big American, loud, clunky, heavy. No, I want something sleek and mean and fast, like a Kira level. Probably a dated reference for some of you. No Honda Goldwing, that thing, what a boat that is. No, I don't ride motorcycles, no. What is your rule of thumb in replacing any IT hardware? I really don't know what that question means. If a piece of hardware needs to be replaced, there's no rule of thumb other than get the machine working as quickly as possible, get it done right, and get it done as cheaply as you can, but also as reliably, so you're not coming back anytime soon. And you'll have a discussion with your customer to determine, should you upgrade it? Well, we got a bad hard drive. Should we replace it with a solid state drive and make it bigger and faster than it was? Or do you just want to fix it and put it back the way it was? In general, I don't just like to fix something. I prefer, if it's my choice, to make it better than it was before. Use the fix as an opportunity to upgrade. But not everybody can afford to do that, or not everybody wants to do that. So it's really up to the customer. And so my rule of thumb, I suppose, is do what the customer wants you to do. But make sure your customer is given all the options to make the decision. Don't assume your customer understands the costs, the time, and the expense of different options. Lay it all out there and then say, now how do you want to proceed? Monty's contributed $10. I guess he's going good night. All right, well, good night, Monty. Thanks for joining us today. Troll Patrolling says, you look like a Kawasaki type of guy. That's fair. The second computer is working great, but I haven't tried it for training yet, for trading. Well, if it's freezing up in trading, right, then that tells me the first computer is working great too, except not for trading if it's freezing in trading. So I would say use the second computer for trading because that's your easiest thing. And if it's not freezing, if you're doing the exact same thing on the second computer and it's not freezing, then the question is, how can I help you remotely with that? Ideally, I have the machine here and I can replicate the freezing. You can run the memtest 86. I've got a video, short video. It's a quick tip on how to test your RAM. You can do that on your own. It takes several hours to run, but it's something I would do if I had the machine here, just for peace of mind. If it fails the RAM test, that'll probably answer the freezing. If it passes the RAM, I'm at a loss. Like at that point, we'd have to start replacing the operating system, see if that fixes it. If not, breaking it down component by component. It's a process of elimination. So before we even start that, we want to make sure we need to, because if it's a software vendor or the source of the data that's causing that freeze, then nothing we can do can fix that. But it has to get whittled down to that point. And so the very first step is use the other, because you have the other computer, use it for trading. See if it too locks up. If it locks up, I guarantee you it has nothing to do with the computers. At that point, it's a software problem. Then it's whittling down software. Yeah, that's fun. A friend of mine's got a Can-Am. That looks kind of fun, kind of a three-wheeled motorcycle. I could do that. I think I could do a Can-Am. Or there's another one that's really cool. What's that called? It's like a Spider. It's a little four-wheel, no, it's a three-wheel drive, two-seat, side-by-side, two-seat. What's it called? It's cool. I wouldn't want to get into an accident, especially with all the trucks and SUVs running around and you're down low, you just get run right over, you get crushed like a bug. What is that thing called? I gotta think about it. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I thought it was called a Spider, but I'm not sure. Slingshot. It's called a Slingshot by Polaris. It is a bad, you know what, looking, you know, you're like, is that a motorcycle or is it a car? If you look up Slingshot, Polaris Slingshot, I think it's 173 horsepower. It's like $20,000. And it's just a really cool looking, there's no top on it, so you wouldn't want to drive it in the rain. It's got two wheels in the front like a car and one wheel in the back that powers it. And yeah, I think it starts at 20 grand. I think they go to like 25 grand. It's an Ecotech GM engine. Yeah, look up the Polaris Slingshot. I totally drive one of those. But again, with all of the SUVs and trucks around here, you'll just get crushed like a bug. Like if you're not careful, You're just going to get smushed. You won't have to worry about airbags. They're not going to help you. You can get them with a hard top now. Wow, that's cool. By the way, I love the keyboard and mouse. I bought 3 of them thanks to you. Which ones? Are the ones I'm using here, these little ones? It's called a free trip to the hospital. Where are we at on time? Just about at 5 o'clock here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I do try to aim for 5 o'clock on the wrap-ups. And the copy is almost 50% done. So again, the general rule is just leave it alone, leave it be, and it'll finish when it's finished. Looks like a beach buggy. No, a beach buggy needs more ground clearance, right? But I get what you're saying. So with regards to these keyboards, everything you see me use, there's a link in the video notes below every video I do that points you to an Amazon store. There's over 100 items listed that deal with the screwdrivers I use, the cameras I use, the memory cards, the microphones, the video capture card, all that stuff is in there. Anytime you see me do a build, I always have a list of parts going to Amazon. If you make any purchases through any of my links that take you to Amazon, anything you purchase as a result of that browser visit, that my link took you to Amazon, regardless of what you buy at Amazon, I make a small commission from, and it's a great way to show your support for the channel. It doesn't cost you any more. The prices on Amazon aren't going up because of that. Also, there's careyholzman.com where we have some merch. I want to be clear on this, never wanted to sell merch. A lot of people were just hounding me about wanting t-shirts and mugs and things. If you have ideas for merch you think I should sell, send them to me, but don't just say you should sell the, like I need a design. You need to design it and I need to, say, oh yeah, it looks cool, let's do it. That's fine with me, but I really don't want to spend time on that myself, designing stuff. I want to stay focused on what I'm good at, which is, for me, the only thing I know how to do, which is fixing computers and building computers. That's all I know. So designing, that's not my thing. Designing a t-shirt or a coffee mug, I don't know. Even my logo, my sister did all that stuff. So if you guys have design ideas or product ideas, let me know, but I need to have the design with it. It's not enough to just go, hey, you should sell a mouse pad. Yeah, well, I'm not going to. I need something more than that, right? You can also get the case badges there. If you're interested in getting a case badge from me, those are still available. And what else did I want to tell you? Oh, just be sure and check the notes below the video for all the links for the meetup coming up in September in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the Amazon links, the Windows 10 optimizer. If you're interested in that, it's $10. I've got videos that talk about all this stuff separately. So if anything I'm talking about is unfamiliar to you, you should be able to search or look at my video library to find that subject discussed thoroughly. Do I ever discuss anything not thoroughly? He said after 2 hours and 52 minutes of this live stream. John says, Carey, you might be right about the freeze ups. It only happens when there's a lot of trading going on. Yeah, I got that, John. The question is, what's freezing? Is it through the browser? Is it through some software through the trading company? So it may be a combination of, you could have 20 windows open and it may just be something happening in one of those windows. And the question is, which one is it? So even that, you might do half the job, run it half the way, see if it still freezes, sort of whittle down what the possibilities are. I know a place to get cheap merch done, anything USB drive shirts. Well, yeah, let me know. But like I said, I also need a design. It's not just I don't want to just offer what everybody else offers. It's got to be something unique that's only available through Carey Holzman, not something where I'm just copying what somebody else has done. It's not fun. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I'm glad you stuck in while the 3-week hiatus of the floors going in took place, and I'll give you a last look. There we go. There's the new floor. You remember how crappy my old floors were. These are so nice, so happy. And this was all from a store called Lumber Liquidators, or as I like to call them, Liquid Lumberdators. I'll come back Sunday or Monday, and nothing's going to change other than that window right there is going to be done at some point today. I'm going to disconnect the hard drive, make sure the machine boots properly to the operating system, and then I'm unplugging everything, and I will pick up on this upgrade Sunday or Monday, show you the boot up time difference. We'll continue on with the installation of the power supply, and that'll give me time to research this power supply just to make sure I don't blow anything up. All right, guys, and thanks to everybody who's contributed during today's live stream. I'll give a shout out to everybody. Gary Lucas contributed $5, says, superior videos. I'm learning a lot with all the topics you cover. If you could do a video that covers multiple routers and access points. I've got a few of those already, and just look through my video library. Madi contributed numerous times today. Thank you so much for your support, Madi, and his computer build will be coming up next week. Mike Britton and Winston Ang Lu, Boomhauer 100, Hector Aviles says, thank you for what you do. It's great to watch your channel have a Coke on me. Thank you, Hector. John Rather contributed $20, says, I'm a big fan of your work. Please add this to your Coke fund. Well, thank you very much, John. I appreciate that. Sorry I missed your contribution when it came in initially. Reviewing, Playing, and More RPM contributed 10 Canadian dollars. So it's good to see you again, Carey. I haven't been around for a bit, but I'm back. Well, me neither. So we're both going at the same time, apparently. John Craig contributed £5. Paul Hoynek, Mark Stevens, Billy Zoo, Lourdes Evans, Jim Maloney, Michael Dane, Ben DeCour, Steve Welch, Sterling, Jan Giddings, Patrick Rousseau, Zarian Art, Sharon Idle, Steve Burnett, John Peck, Donnie Seeger, Chester Hughes, Wim VDK, watching us from Belgium. Numerous contributions from Madi Yoel and from Jesse Kirk. Thank you guys so much. Thomas Beckenstowe, Craig Hoochin, David Kane, Jim Desposito. And the first contribution came in half an hour before I got started from Madi. So again, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all your support. And this video will be available. I see some people are just now joining us. This video will be available to watch from the beginning in just a couple hours after YouTube processes it, in case you missed it. And then you can watch it at your convenience. I will see you all again very, very soon. Not ready yet. There we go. I will see you all again very, very soon. And until then, bye for now. Didn't work. It's live. And CCTV user just contributed £2. He says, I missed you, buddy. Thank you, CCTV user. And Paul Wright, and Paul Newman, and 55 staying here. Thanks, you guys. All right, I'm going to try this one more time. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.